seems weird to talk into this microphone, but I haven't used my teacher voice in a while. So I just want to say welcome. My name is Carla Atkinson. I'm the Family Engagement Coordinator with Norman Public Schools. And one part of my role is to offer parent universities to parents in our community on topics that basically I get feedback from parents, teachers, to things we might need to know about or want to know about, and then I try to make that happen for you. So thank you so much for coming out on a Tuesday of a short week. I know those are always a little bit more strange than normal, and thank you for coming out in the cold weather, but I think you will, I know you're not going to be sorry with the information that you're going to learn tonight. We are proud to partner with Abbott House, and I first met Ronnie about a year ago, I think, when I went to a PTA council meeting and she was presenting on this very topic, and I thought, wow, everybody needs to know this. So we are hosting universities we've already had one for middle school this year. This is the elementary opportunity, and then we're going to have one for our high school students, parents as well. So I'm not going to even try to tell you any more about her, but I'm going to turn it over and introduce Ronnie Roney from Abbott House. And real quick, a couple of housekeeping items. Hopefully you all signed in with your name and your email. And then I put a packet out for you. If you didn't get one, just raise your hand and we'll make sure that you get one. If you need a restroom, they are just down this hall to my right, and then you'll pass the reception desk and they'll be on your left. So make yourselves at home, and thanks again for coming out, and I think you're going to learn a lot tonight.
All right. Well, I am excited for all of you guys to come out in the brutally cold weather. I appreciate it. So, like she said, my name's Ronnie Roney. I am with Abbott House Child Advocacy Center. Basically, or you might have heard it as Mary Abbott Children's House. That's been kind of our name for a long time, but we did a little switcheroo just so that it actually sounds like what we do. So a little bit about what we do is we are basically a safe place for kids to come and talk. So when there's allegations of abuse or neglect and there's been a report made to law enforcement or to DHS or both, they then call us and ask us to do like a forensic interview is what it's called. So kind of sounds CSI, law and order type, but it's not, very child friendly. Basically, it's a space for kids to only have to tell their experience one time. Before child advocacy centers, they would have to tell that experience 10 to 12 different times to different people. And so it's recorded audio and visual there, so they can use it for court purposes. And then we have advocacy that handles kind of the caregivers and helps them, I joke that we're kind of like their GPS. We tell them kind of, here's what this looks like, here's what an investigation looks like, and kind of their support for resources. And we have medical on site, so any kids that need to be seen medically, we have nurse practitioners and sane nurses that are able to do those exams for kids. So we're kind of just a whole big family working together to try to make sure kids are safe, and we work within multidisciplinary team that has local law enforcement, DHS, the DA's office, medical providers, and some mental health providers in our area to just make sure kids are safe. And we work with the local schools as well. So that's a little bit about like Abbott House, because I like to say that because people kind of usually wonder, why do you know what you know? Like, why are you the one bringing this material? So I'm the education director there, which means I go out and I do things like this. So I talk to, whether it's parents or kids, you name it, it's about prevention education. Because we truly believe that if we can prevent things, right, we would all be better off than if we were always on the back end and trying to intervene and do things after the fact. And when it comes to kids, we want to prevent them as much as we can, right? We tell them, don't put your hand on the stove, don't do that. And any chance we can, we're trying to prevent them from doing something that could hurt them. And that goes along with online safety, They may not know some of the things that you're going to find out tonight. You might not know some of the things you will hear tonight, and I hope that it comes from a place where you guys can just see things that you guys can do. So I will say within the first few minutes of this, people are ready to throw their phones out the door, stomp on their kids' iPads, and be like, never again. Like, that's the only way to keep our kids safe. I'm not going to lie, I feel like that. My husband's up here up front. I didn't tell him I'd probably use him as a crutch a few times, but we struggle with that too, you know, like what's the easiest way to keep your kids safe? Oh, let's just let them not have any of it, you know? But there are ways that we can keep them safe and ways we can teach them to keep themselves safe too. Because I think that's the other thing is we want to grow our kids up to where they can make good decisions. Mom and dad and grandma and grandpa can't be around 24/7. So we need to help them understand the best way to make good decisions when it comes to specifically online stuff. So we are partners with the OSBI, Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations. We're the only affiliate partner that is for the prevention education. So they have all these law enforcement agencies that do the actual investigations, but they have pulled us on to do the education portion of it. And so I get a lot of my information from them, just so you guys know that. And then National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is another one, and I'll kind of throw a lot of different things out there for you guys for resources that you can even go back on and look at later. So that's a little bit about me, and I know there's a few kiddos in here, and that's okay, but I will say there's going to be a time where I play just a quick video. Would you guys be okay if your kid stepped out when I play that video? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, it's not now. I'll give you a warning, but I need to play that video. I just need to not skip it because it's very important for everyone to see. So I know we're elementary school parents, right? So I have a 8-year-old at Cleveland, and so we're elementary school parents as well. But I have bonus kiddos, and they went all through the Norman Public Schools, and they're 27, 23, and 21. So we've been through kind of a lot, but honestly, like this whole internet, social media, apps, all that stuff is really blown up more so after, I think, we were having to navigate that as a parent. So I have a little bit of the parenting side on navigating it, but I have a lot of it of the scary side of investigations and seeing what's actually going on out there in the world. So we have this program called ALERT. It means Avoid, Learn, React, Tell, and basically I talk to parents or I talk to students about keeping kids safe online. So that's kind of why the acronym. I like to start with this. Sometimes it's hard to see, but if you can tell on the left side there's a phone and it says, you are so beautiful, you could be a model, I'm a photographer, don't you trust me? And it says child sex trafficking happens like this, not like this. And the video or the picture on the right is what we all imagine, somebody trying to give candy and then pull the kid into the car. Does that still happen? Unfortunately, yes, but the biggest majority of child sex trafficking or exploitation, things like that, is happening through the devices, through their phones. And sometimes there are kids being made to, made to make content, explicit content, in their own homes, but not necessarily by their parents, by somebody else on the other side of that phone or that device, and their parents have no idea it's going on. I've heard from multiple survivors who kept it a secret for years because they were threatened and told, you can't tell, we're going to hurt you, we're going to hurt your family, all these different things. And they were making content, very bad content for these people, but nobody knew. And they weren't always the kids that are like, don't make good grades or have a hard home life. No, like a lot of these kids are actually like straight A students, the best on their soccer team. Like they've got a lot going for them. And those are the ones they target sometimes because they know they have a lot to lose. So I know we're elementary age, and I'm going to do my best to kind of stick within that. But just so you know, there's kind of like a big, like gap of the things that I know about. Okay, so I'll try to stick with elementary. I'm just kind of giving you a big picture of what this could turn into. So the two big things you'll hear me talk about a lot, just so we're all on the same page, is online exploitation. Basically, it's when an individual communicates with someone they believe to be a child through the internet with the intent to commit some type of sexual offense or abduction, including the production and sharing of child sexual abuse material. And then sextortion is the threat to expose sexual images in order to make a person do something. So those threats come from both strangers that they meet online and sometimes like romantic partners, boyfriend, girlfriends, attempting to harass, embarrass, and control victims. So these are the two big kind of things when it comes to internet crimes against children, these big topics. And I know you guys are thinking, my kids are in elementary school. Like, these are too big of words to be thinking about with my babies in elementary school. Unfortunately, it goes pretty young to where even really, like, I mean, we've seen first, second graders be unfortunately involved in some exploitation and things like that because of access to electronic devices. So, some couple of statistics: 1 in 6 youth ages 9 to 17 have shared a nude image. Doesn't matter to who, they've just shared it. 50% who shared didn't care who that recipient was, or didn't care if they knew who that recipient was in real life. And then 41% of those youth who have shared also sent images to people they believe to be adults. And so even though we're telling our kids not to do this, they're still doing it. So that's why I think it's important to talk to kids about the dangers, like not just say don't do it, right? We gotta give them the why. Because if you just tell a kid not to do it, their like first thought is like, I think I'm just gonna do it, right? Because it's like, you haven't really told me why I shouldn't. And so that's what I'm gonna talk a little bit about tonight. How can we give our kids the why? How can we help it get through their heads like this could be dangerous? Because what they're gonna think, if they haven't already, they think you guys are just being very boring, mean people, not letting them do the fun thing. Everybody else's parents let their kids do it. Like, I don't even think I told you this, but our son asked us if he could bring his phone to school the other day, and I was like, we have an extra iPhone that's like, you know, those random iPhones that you don't go and sell because they're cracked, but they still kind of work. Yeah, he has one of those. But it's not necessarily his, it's just like a mini iPad if you think about it, and he like does some things on there, like little games and stuff. And I was like, you were 8 years old. No, absolutely not. You're not taking that to school with you. It's like, oh, everybody else on the bus has one, and I'm like, I don't even want to comment on that right now. So it's getting there for us, Chad. Let's buckle up. It's gonna be fun. So again, like I said, the first few minutes are rough. I'm sorry, but I'm just bringing it to you real. 1 out of 5 youth with access to a digital device will be sexually solicited online. Okay, it's not an if, it's a when, basically. So 1 out of 5, just with access to a digital device, will be sexually solicited online. Because I think we think, I don't know, for me, I thought for a long time, like, these kids are kind of seeking it out, and no, it's they're being sought out, if that makes sense. You know, you might have those few that are like, I joke about this when I talk to kids in schools. I'm like, most kids want to be safe online. And I'm like, there might be a few of you that are like, I want to be a little risky, you know, but for the most part, like, they want to stay safe online. So they're not actually seeking it out. It's coming to them, if that makes any sense. So how does this happen? How are they actually being sought out, and why, and what are all the reasons? So obviously, I think we all know that kids are on their screens a lot more than they used to be, okay? And this includes, like, you know, their Chromebooks and things like that they have for school. So this includes homework screen time too, not just like game screen time. And I'm not going to say the P word out loud, but the P word up there is, I would say it if I didn't have children in here, is one of the most commonly searched words for kids under 7. Anybody know why you think that's one of the most commonly searched words? They're curious. What do we do when we don't know something? Google it, right? So I think they hear that word and they're like, what is that? They've been taught from a very young age. Have you seen these like little 2-year-olds that can like master an iPhone in 5 seconds? They've been taught, like, you see those cute little videos where they're like, hey Alexa, play this. Like, they've been taught to just, if they don't know it, search it up. And so I don't think these kids under 7 really know what they're searching. I think they heard the word, whether it's at school, older siblings, something, and they just Google it because that's what you do. And so my first kind of tip for you guys is start now telling your kids, hey, if there's anything you don't know, can you come to mommy and daddy or grandma and grandpa or whoever you are and ask us? We don't want you to just go and type it into the internet, so give them the why, because sometimes you might type something in there that you don't know is bad and it ends up being bad. So can we make a pact that anytime you don't know, you're going to come to me and ask me? But here's where you guys have to hold your side. You better be ready to tell them, right? Because I heard a kid in one of my talks. I said that I was like, ask your parents before you Google anything or before you look anything up, and let them tell you. They'll tell you the truth. I made the mistake of saying they'll tell you the truth, but in my opinion, you guys know your kids. So what level of truth that is will depend on where they're at, their age, and all the things. Like I can't imagine if our son came and asked us what the P word meant. We'd be like, let me get back to you on that. But parents, you know where your kids are at, so you can tell them at the level that you think that they can understand it. But I had a girl say, well, I asked my mom and she said a word. Sorry, I've got kids in here now. And she told me I was too young, that I didn't even know what that was. And I was like, well, that example didn't really help me out. So I need you guys to be prepared. If you're going to say, come to me, be ready to answer. Does that make sense? Okay? And if you don't, it's okay to be like, just give me a minute. I'm going to give you the answer. I just need to kind of get my head wrapped around this before I give it to you. So that is tip number 1 out of 1 million. No, I'm just kidding. So who are these people? Like, why are there bad people out there? And I hate to say it, the kids ask these questions all the time. When I go out and I educate, I have a lot of kids that are like, Miss Ronnie, why are these bad people out there? Why are they even doing this? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. It's frustrating. But the people who these people are and how they get to our kids is they have to fake who they are. So I talk to kids all the time about how, what does an online predator look like to you? And I usually get kids that are like, so I'm sorry if, I'll just tell you exactly what the kids say, okay? From the words of the kids. They say, 40-year-old bald man with a double chin, with maybe a hoodie on, and has Cheeto fingers and lives in their mom's basement. Like, that's what I usually hear about what an online predator looks like. Like, you might not be wrong, right? But what they look like online is they look like kids. So I tell kids, they look like you guys. And I'm like, they have to fake who they are, because they know kids are smart. Kids aren't going to talk to the middle-aged 40-year-old man with Cheeto fingers living in the mom's basement. But they will talk to somebody their own age, right? Online. That's how they become friends. So they have to fake who they are. And unfortunately, our kids don't put that together. They just think this is another, 10-year-old boy who likes to play Roblox, who lives in a different state. All along, it's somebody completely different. So they step into vulnerabilities to gain trust and manipulate. So they really, they really try to get to know a kid quickly, so that they can understand what they like, and then they can start talking to them about that and getting them to gain their trust, to then the point where they end up, the best way I can say it is they kind of start brainwashing our kids. They start getting them to do things normally they wouldn't do. Does that make sense? So they step into vulnerabilities, they gain trust and manipulate. And a big thing they're doing is they're offering gifts. So say your kids are playing Roblox, a lot of times some of these predators will say, hey, I just wanted to give you some Robux. Robux is the in-game currency for Roblox, or V-Bucks for Fortnite, things like that. And any of you guys have kids that game yet? Any gamers? Yeah? Okay, it's okay. We are in a safe space. You can tell me if your kids game, I promise. But they're probably begging you to put some money on their accounts, right? For different skins and different things, and you're like, absolutely not. But who will give it to them? These really bad people, okay? They'll just send them some Robux or V-Bucks, and they think, oh, they're being kind. That's so nice. And then the next thing you know, they'll say things like, you know how I gave you those Robux? I'm going to need you to do something for me now. And kids, being as young as they are, they're like, oh no. And they truly believe that they're in trouble. You know what I'm saying? And they'll tell them you're gonna get in trouble, or I'm gonna tell everybody you stole those, or I'm gonna try to get you banned from this game. That's a big deal, right? For kids, if they think they're about to get banned from a game, they're like, what do I need to do? And again, it doesn't start out with something like awkward and obvious, if that makes sense. It starts out like kind of small. And then that's when they start to get kids and continue to get them to possibly send. It's typically sending inappropriate pictures is what they end up getting from kids. Sometimes it's money, and I'll go into that in just a minute. They also sometimes send things, kids have Amazon wish lists sometimes. They'll get them to share that with them, and they'll send them those things, okay? And if anybody's thinking like, how does this stuff come in the mail and the parents not see it? Well, as your kids get older, what if they get home before you do from work or something like that, right? So then they can check the mail before you can get to the mail, and you have no idea. Or maybe they have that friend that doesn't have like a lot of adult supervision, so they get it mailed to the friend's house, and then the friend brings it to school to them. So these are the things, how they're getting our kids to send them things, because they're offering them stuff. Let's see. So some different red flags. This is what I tell kids, and it's kind of what I want to tell parents too. A lot of times they move communication from one platform to another. So basically, maybe they're talking on Roblox, and they're like, hey, let's go to Discord. Has everybody heard of Discord for the most part? It's a gaming, it's a messaging app. It started for messaging app for gamers, where they can talk kind of back and forth on different servers and talk about their games and things like that. And it's really like the predator playground right now, because it has end-to-end encryption, and I promise you I'm not going to get crazy techie, because you can ask my husband, I'm not the most techie person. So when I say end-to-end encryption, I feel so good about that. Like, I'm like, yes, I know that. So what that means is basically when an app is end-to-end encrypted, it means anything that happens on that app is basically like private or secure. But in our eyes of like internet crimes against children, we think when we hear end-to-end encrypted, we think secret. We don't think private or secure. We think secret. So, meaning anything that happens on the app, the people who have made the app, companies have said, you can do whatever you want on this app, because we want you to have free speech, we want you to feel comfortable, and we're not going to report you. We're not going to say anything. We're not going to check in on you. We can't even look at your stuff. So that tells predators, cool, I can ask for really bad things, I can send bad things, I can receive bad things, and I'm less likely to get in trouble, because it's end-to-end encrypted. So there's no, what is the other word I'm looking for? No monitoring. There it is. There's no monitoring on that app. Can you still report and block on those apps? Yes, but there's no like back in the background monitoring to see if anything bad's happening on those apps. So they move kids from Roblox to Discord or WhatsApp or Snapchat. They move them to something that's end-to-end encrypted, so they can get them alone in some form of messaging, and then talk to them and try to get them to send things to them. So I already said they coerce children with in-app points. There's a lot of the reciprocation. I'll show you if you show me. And unfortunately, our kids fall for it, because they truly believe like, well, if they sent me this, then that means that's really who they are. And so I can send my inappropriate picture, because obviously that's a 12-year-old girl, and but what I tell students is, I'm like, I know this is weird, but where do you think, if it's not the 12-year-old girl, where do you think they got that picture from? And a lot of them say Google or whatever. I'm like, maybe. I said, but no, they got it from another victim. So they use other victims' pictures to send to other kids to make it all happen. So I know, I see the eyes. It's like, ugh. This world should not be this way, right, people? Should not. But we're going to get there. We're going to get there where I'm going to help us through it. Let's see what else. So they physically threaten to hurt or sexually assault the child or family members. And to us, we're like, just say no. Like, they can't really do that to you. But our kids, if they're really, really involved, like, they truly believe that this could happen to them, So we have to teach our kids that if somebody ever tries to threaten you, you need to tell me. You've got to come to me and tell me. Even if, it's like those old movies and stuff where they're like, don't go to the police, right? It's like, no, still go. It's like, you still need to tell. And sometimes they're even pulling on the heartstrings of our kids by saying that they will commit suicide if the kid doesn't do this. So the kid's like, I don't want you to kill yourself, so I will do this. That's like a whole nother form of messed up, you know? I know, it's bad. I don't know why my phone was ringing, but here we go. So, gotta teach our kids that if people are threatening them, they've gotta come and talk to us about it, okay? So, some stats, again, that aren't super fun. But 93% of online financial sextortion from sending an inappropriate picture happens to boys. A lot of people think it's girls, and yes, overall, girls are the higher victims, so to speak, but when it comes to financial sextortion, so what this looks like is, hey, you know, a boy has sent an inappropriate picture, and the person on the other side goes, hey, I've got that picture, and so you have to send me money, or else I'll send that out to all of your friends and your family. And they'll we've seen it, I've seen a few cases of it, they'll screenshot their friends list, like on Instagram, and send it to them being like, I know who all your people are. And they won't ask for, I joke with kids, I'm like, they're not gonna ask for $1 million. You guys are broke, you're not gonna be able to give them $1 million. They'll say, Venmo me $20. And so what do kids do? They Venmo them $20, because they think, I can handle this, right? I probably got $20, I can handle it. And there was a kid in a smaller town in Oklahoma, he sent close to $1,000 over time, because he kept thinking this is going to be the last time. Because, let me rewind back, he was, it actually wasn't even his picture. His face got taken from a profile picture and put on another naked body, and then it was sent to him, and they said, we have this picture, and he's like, well, that's not me. But he was being recruited for like a D1 college football team. And so he thinks, oh my gosh, nobody's gonna believe me that that's not me. I'm about to lose my scholarship, I'm about to not be able to go to college, I'm about to probably even be kicked off my high school football team. And so he sent the $20, because he's like, I know it's not me, but I can't let this get out there. And again, like I said, over time he sent close to $1,000. He ended up finally telling, and it's crazy because his dad is a police officer. And so his dad was like, you've got to be kidding me, you know? But that just goes to show you how hard it is for kids to tell, because they believe that nobody's going to believe them. And those people on the other side will say those things. They'll say, everybody's going to think you're lying, nobody's going to believe you, so they won't tell. 46% of minors sharing an inappropriate picture have done so with someone they met online. That's kind of goes in line with what we talked about earlier. 59% of minors reported potentially harmful online behavior, so just different things that you can do online that is harmful, whether it's sending pictures or talking explicitly, things like that. This one's a big one. Is I tell kids this, that there's, on average, one predator connects with about 250 kids, and there's an estimated 500,000 predators active each day online. So one adult predator connects with at least 250 kids, and there's over 500,000 online every day. So there's a lot out there. 1 in 5 minors, 9 to 12, have reported an inappropriate online interaction with a person they believe to be an adult. So some of them know they're talking to adults, and then they report it. All right. But there's alert. I had all the doom and gloom, but there is alert, and it helps us keep kids safe. And so on your little packet, that tells you the different kind of things we go over, some just really good talking points with your kids. And I'm not going to go through all of these things, but that is for you to take home, and then I'm going to tell you some
So we at Bark, unfortunately.
biscuits. Okay, it's time for the video. Thanks, friends. It'll be real quick. So, just a little kind of warning, so to speak. This is from Bark Technologies. If you've ever heard of Bark, they're a monitoring company that helps monitor apps and things like that when it comes to kids' online activity. And so this is a very brief clip from the documentary Childhood 2.0. Highly recommend that, kind of. I hate to say that because it's like nobody really wants to watch something like that, but it really opens your eyes to kind of what's happening out there. So Childhood 2.0, I think it's even on YouTube, but this is just a brief little clip. And this does have to do with social media, which I get. We're talking elementary school kids, but your kids are going to be there faster than you realize it. So I know that probably made all of our tummies churn a little bit, right? And I used to think, how can that even get through, like on Instagram, right? With that profile picture. How's that even allowed? Well, how it's allowed is because how do I say this in a nice way? Anything can happen until somebody reports it. Basically, that's how our social media and all these apps are set up. They say that they might have like people that are monitoring it in the background, but there's been so many like interviews of where it's like whack-a-mole, right? They get these profiles down and just more are popping up. It is impossible for them to keep all the bad stuff off. So it's going to be out there. And I'm like, I just thought that was like not even possible, but it is. So a big thing, a big recommendation is we have to start setting guidelines for our kids when it comes to tech use early, often, and have weird and awkward conversations with them all the time to make sure that they can talk to you about things, they understand what's going on, and you're putting in effort saying you care about what happens in their online world. So kind of a joke, but we don't just, when kids turn 16, we don't just throw them the keys and say good luck, right? No, we do some type of parent-taught driver's ed, which I still have PTSD from our older 3 kids, or we pay a lot of money for somebody else to do it, right? But we teach them somehow, some way. And I think because technology is just going so crazy, and I don't know, I still feel kind of like left in the dust sometimes, and our kids know how to use it way faster than we know how to use it. So I think sometimes we don't even have to teach them how to use it, so I think we take that for granted. Does that make sense? Like we just like let them use it because they know what they're doing. But we really need to set some guidelines. So privacy settings and parental controls. I think those are pretty obvious, and if you don't have those, that's a good place to start. So all iPhones and Androids have like parental controls and privacy settings already in them. You just have to know what to click and how to use it. I will say there's plenty of little like how-to guides online that can help you with those things. Here's a couple of ways kids get around some stuff. Now I know we're talking elementary school kids, but believe me, it's crazy. They can get around some crazy stuff. So you know how on screen time, like you can say, oh, I only want them to watch this much YouTube, right? And then it can turn off YouTube. Does everybody know what I'm talking about on your screen things? Okay. Kids get around that by going into Google Docs and typing in like youtube.com and clicking on it through Google Docs. That smartphone's not that smart, and it takes them to YouTube because it's not in the app now. So now that all magically they have way more time on YouTube. Okay? I think we all know like there's calculators. If your kid has multiple calculators, they're not just loving math. One of those is some type of vault. So it works like a calculator, but once you put the right code in, it goes bloop and pulls you into like a backdoor app where they're hiding lots of things from you. Okay? I highly recommend having your phone set up on like family share and things like that. So meaning when your kids are away from you, if they want to download an app, whether it's free or paid, it has to come to you and you have to say yes or no to it. Okay? Will that get annoying? Yes. Is it best? Yes. Here's ways that kids get around it. We found this out the hard way. Sorry, I don't think I ever told you that I tell some stories. But anyways, our daughter, super sweet, She wasn't allowed to have Instagram till, I can't remember, but there was a time where we were like, no Instagram. Well, she had a friend that was like, well, just get Instagram while you're away from home and then delete it, you know, because we would check her phone and we would make them turn their phones in and all these things. And I'm thinking I've got it figured out because she has to ask for it. Well, we shared an Apple ID. I have Instagram. So when she typed it in on her app store, it just had the little cloud and she could download it because we shared the same Apple ID. It didn't have to come to me if I've downloaded it on mine. Luckily, our daughter's very honest, and I think it took her 2 days, and she was beside herself when she finally told us about it. She's like, I made a mistake. It was a whole thing. But make sure you have different Apple IDs. Something silly as that. But, yeah, I can't remember what else I was going to say on this. I'll tell you some parental control apps that we can have also in just a minute. Where am I at? Okay. Some things that you guys can ask. And I think all of this will be sent out, right? So, yeah, the packets.
We'll share this whole
Presentation, yeah. So I don't want you to be like, oh God, gotta write it all down. You could take pictures if you want it like immediately. But in what ways do you see kids using phones for good? So just having conversations with your kids and having them respond back to you, because a lot of times we're coming at kids going, you shouldn't be on there that long. This is bad for your health. Your brain's gonna get broken, right? They don't wanna hear that. But this is like kind of motivational interviewing, if you know what I mean. Like you can kind of like ask them in certain ways to get them to say the answer that you're like, yes. Because I guarantee you some of your kids are going to be like, what are some examples of your friends overusing their phones? They'll be like, well, so-and-so's on TikTok all day, and I can't believe that she, has this many hours logged. And then it's like, ka-ching, like then they start going, oh, I might also be on my phone too much. So just some good ways to kind of start talking with your kids. So screen times and screen zones, so I kind of alluded to that earlier, but not just parental controls, but putting screen times, saying they can only be on these apps for this long, okay? And then screen zones, meaning, in my opinion, screens shouldn't be behind closed doors. So they should be out in the living room and the kitchen. I know this sounds silly, but I'm pretty sure we've got some people in here whose kids, if they haven't done it yet, they're going to, because we have older kids. They want to take that phone to the bathroom while they go number 2, because that's a long time being in the bathroom not having anything to do, right? Well, they're already, I know this is my messed up mind because what I do, they're already half undressed at that point. It's a lot easier for them to just take unfortunate pictures in the bathroom. So, sorry, no phones or iPads in the bathroom. Does that make sense? And then, like I said, my husband and I, we had our kids turn in their phones at night, and for a while we had them just sitting on the island, and then I think we realized one of them was getting it in the middle of the night, so then we set it by next to our bed. Or you can turn your Wi-Fi off at a certain point. You can shut their phone down at certain, hours. But here's a glorious way these kids have gotten around it. Not really, but kids can change their time on their phone. So say their phone shuts down at 7 p.m., they can go into the settings and change their phone to 5 p.m. They've got magically 2 more hours because their phone doesn't know. That shouldn't be allowed. But, so check that. Does that make sense?
Did they just change the time zone?
Mm-hmm. Change the time zone. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So messed up. So messed up. Okay. So the Big 10 parameters, this is something I found off of all the research I've done, but these are things as your kids are getting older, when they start to get phones, you gotta, in my opinion, it's easier to start hardcore and kind of pull back than it is to just be do whatever and then go, oh, you shouldn't have all these things. Because I've heard way too many kids go, well, it's not your phone, it's my phone. It's like, number 1, you don't own the phone, right? Number 2, passwords are not secret. Nothing you do on your phone is private. Your phone will be monitored. So starting out this way gives them an expectation, because if you don't, then it is going to look like you're trying to violate their privacy. Anybody gotten those words yet from your kids? You're just trying to violate my privacy. Well, you're a minor, you have no privacy. Not under my roof. But then this goes into the next one. I'll do the next one in just a second. Having regular phone discussions and do phone checks. I've already said that one. But all the time saying, is everything going okay? Anything new on your phone that you want to talk about? Just keeping this conversation going. And then just random checks. Don't do it the same time every day. Because again, they're smart and they'll probably figure out how to delete things, and it's because you check it every Friday at 5. This is a big one, the penalty box, because we can't just tell kids, what not to do. We have to tell kids what'll happen if they do these things, and not just like don't do bad things. Unfortunately, kids are pretty literal, right? I don't know how many times our kiddos said, I didn't know that. I'm like, I think you didn't know that. But we weren't very so you literally say, you disable any parental controls on your phone. That's not going to be good. It's in the penalty box. You install or delete anything on your phone without my permission. We just had that today. Our kiddo was trying to download an app, and he learned that it's on his phone, not really, but that if it has the face identity thing, if he just puts dad's face on it, then it automatically downloads the app. And so Chad's working on something, and all of a sudden the phone's right there, and he's like, what? And then he runs off, and he's like, dude, we just talked about this. You have to ask. You learn that this face thing's there, but you need to ask me, because I need to look at that and read the app and make sure it's good. So I've said this earlier. Explain why your kids shouldn't give out personal information. So explaining the why, but going specifically to personal information. Kids don't realize that even sharing their phone number is it's a lot of information. Just so you guys know this, if you don't already, there's plenty of places online to do reverse phone lookups. I wanted to teach kids not how to look up people's phones. They all wanted to know what the app was that I used. I was like, I'm not telling you that. But I put my phone number in, and it came back, and it said my first name, my last name. It said I lived in Norman, Oklahoma, and it even had a map with a pin on my house, all from just my phone number. And so there's plenty of those places out there where people so if our kids share their phone number, which they think is safe, they could be sharing it with somebody who knows that kind of stuff, and they can find out way more about them. One of the teachers did it while I was talking, and I don't know what site she went to, but it came up with the last 3 houses she lived in. It had her maiden name, it had her parents' name, had her kids' names. I was like, I don't know how that knows all that information. So teaching our kids not to share our phone numbers or anything like that. Tell them what to do if an inappropriate pop-up happens. So again, we have to be very literal with kids. If something happens, this is what you do. Okay? So I teach kids, sounds silly, but they're playing a game on their phone, and those ads pop up because it's typically free games that we let our kids play, and an ad pops up. And sometimes they can be playing a completely kid game, and the ad that pops up is extremely inappropriate. Anybody seen any of those? Yeah? Okay, usually they're half-dressed people, things like that. And there was one that our son saw, and it was half-dressed woman, and she was like, come play with me. And I was like, ah! So I teach kids that if that pops up, we literally turn our head and look away. We turn our phones or our tablets upside down. We shut it. If the X button is there, click the X button, get out of there. Now they have the dadgum timer, right? That's 20 seconds. And I tell kids what they're trying to do is getting you to stare at it for 20 seconds when you know you shouldn't be looking at that. So turn your head, do all the things, get out of the app. And I love hearing kids, a lot of them are like, ooh, I just swipe up and get out of the app. Or, I just stopped playing that game because, wow, that was bad. And I just move on. And I'm like, okay. But what kids don't realize is if that continues to happen in that app, that's just a bad app. Because anybody can put apps online. I don't know if you guys know this. Anybody can make up an app, and they can say what age it is. And it's like the Wild Wild West. There's nobody out there double checking that if you put 4-year-old and up, that it's really 4-year-old and up. And there's a lot of these that look like a kid's game. You go in it, and then the next thing you know, you're in the dark web. So read the little app descriptions, read the reviews. I know it's a lot of work. That's this afternoon I was telling our son, I was like, I don't have time to read through that. So no, you just can't have that game. Because he said it says 4 years old and up. And I was like, I know. And I wish I could go off that, but I can't. Let's see what else. Screens don't make you safe. I think that's a pretty obvious, teaching our kids that just because we're talking to somebody and there's a screen, that doesn't mean like you're automatically safe. There's so much that they can know about you. Don't click on things like that. I teach kids about, anytime you download an app nowadays, it asks to track your location. Everything wants to track your location. And I ask kids what they put, and most of them say don't allow. They say, I say don't allow. And I'm like, good. And I explain to them, when you allow while using the app, it's literally tracking you. And you might think, oh, it's Starbucks, like who cares, right? But if any of you guys have ever dealt with this, say you let Starbucks track you, and you walk by or drive by a Starbucks, guess what typically happens? Ding! Aren't you ready for your afternoon coffee? And you're like, how did you know I was by Starbucks? And it's like, oh, I'm a dummy. I let them track me, And it's genius marketing, right? Very genius. But that's what we're getting. My husband calls it not notifications. He calls it distractions, right? He's like, that is not a notification. That is a distraction is what that is. So teaching our kids not to share their location at all, really on anything, except for they always need me to say that Life 360 is okay, which is the parental, if you guys don't have it, it's like a GPS where you see where your kids are. Life 360, weather apps, oh my goodness. Is there any other ones? Life 360, weather. I've forgotten. I feel like there's one more that they all need me to say because they're like, they think they're like, is that safe? And I'm like, yes, that's safe. I'll think of it in a minute. Check privacy settings. So when your kids start making, profiles and things like that, if there's a way to make it a private profile, make it a private profile. The default is public on almost anything. They're actually trying to change the law to where the default is private and that you have to go in and change it to public, but right now it's the reverse. And so I've run into many kids that go, wait, so when I made my Instagram, it didn't automatically, it's not just private already. I'm like, no, you gotta go in there and do that. And I'm like, ooh. So the whole time they had an Instagram, they thought their stuff was on private, and it was not. So anything that can be private, and then check them often, because when updates happen, it's happened to me a couple times, but I'll say Facebook, for instance, it'll go from private to public, it'll toggle it without me saying it's okay because an update happened. So go back and check those things and make sure that they're still on private. Ask questions. Is something happening online? So, we ask our kids, how did today go at school and all these things. Again, they're literal. You need to be very much like, is anything happening on Roblox? Is anything happening on Fortnite? Be very specific, because for whatever reason they think if you don't ask them that way, then that's not what you're actually talking about. So I've heard kids, when you actually come to them and say, is anything happening on this? They're like, oh yeah, this dude did this and they sent me this picture and it was really weird. And unfortunately, you'll find out all the scary stuff. Because what's happening is our kids are actually doing a good job of blocking and reporting on their own, but they don't tell their parents what's up. And it's so I've been telling kids, tell your parents what's up. They want to know what's going on. Okay. Almost done. I'm not going to show this video, but highly recommend you guys go look at it. It's called The Dirty Dozen. And every year it's NCOSE, and I can never, National Child Online Exploitation, I don't know. I can give it to you in a minute, but it puts out a Dirty Dozen list, and it's basically all these, whether they're apps or they're sites, whatever, that they consider Dirty Dozen lists, meaning they don't protect kids when it comes to online exploitation. the top 12 most dangerous apps, which a lot of these I'm sure you guys probably know. This is just through a different thing, and I'll give you another number in a second. But Snapchat, this is in order from left to right. Snapchat, Instagram, Discord, Yik Yak, TikTok, Twitter, Omegle, Hoop, Kick, Vault, Roblox, and Yarn. Omegle, I don't believe is there anymore. I think they actually finally took that one down. But these are kind of some big ones. And I believe Bark has a really good description of a bunch of these. That's where I got all of it, and explains to you why they're bad. Basically, what I'll say to you guys, anytime there's, what's it called, like instant messaging or direct messaging, that's always going to be sketchy. If there's any way that they can direct message or chat headset with people, other people from other places, that's going to be sketchy. So if there's a way to turn that feature off on that game, do it, because it's not worth it. Because it starts out as I trick kids a little bit when I do my talks, and I say, you know, hey, what do you like to play? And they're like, Fortnite. And I'm like, oh, who do you play with? And they're like, Brady and Jonathan and Ethan. I'm like, oh, cool. If I had a Fortnite, could I play with you guys? And they're like, yeah. And then I'm like, you realize what I just did there? And they're like, oh. Like, I quickly started up a conversation, and that's what it's going to look like on their side of things. Somebody just messaging them saying, do you like Roblox? Let's hop into this, hop into this game. I want you to meet my friends. And it seems all natural and okay, but then it could be a predator behind all that. Almost done. I think I've already said all these things, but anything with messaging, secret conversations, if the apps are anonymous apps, like where you don't have to like really say who you are or anything like that, those are all just kind of concerning. Anything location based is really bad. A couple of things that people don't know, kids can look up, he's too young to probably hear me. Kids could look up porn off of Google Maps. Yep, they can just zoom into like a strip club, click on it, and then it takes them to their website where, yeah. Don't know what kid figured that out, but Spotify also has that on there. Spotify, a music app, because they get to put their album art, and anybody can put a dadgum song on Spotify, and they'll have all this album art that's explicit, or even like podcast or sound bites, if you know what I mean. And it's like, how is Spotify not even safe? I watched a video the other day of a girl who was able to access YouTube through ABC Mouse. I had a kid ask me, what app is safe, Miss Ronnie? And I was like, none. And they were like, well, what about the ones that aren't connected to the internet? And I said, those typically are. And ABC Mouse is kind of somewhat one of those. It's connected to the internet, but it's not, there's no back and forth with other people, right? Like you're in your own little world. Well, this girl, it was a complete accident how she did it, but she was like on ABC Mouse, she clicked this game, it pulled up this game, she clicked something, and then it brought her into this, and she was like, oh, books, and it took her out of ABC Mouse into these like books that she was looking at, and then on there she clicked like the privacy settings or something, like it were not terms and conditions on one of the books, and then at the bottom, she clicked something else. I'm telling you, it was like 12 different clicks, and then all of a sudden it popped up to where, those little, what am I talking about? Those dots that are in the corner when we're on our Google and things like that, and you click it and it drops down. It dropped down, and she had YouTube. Bloop, got on YouTube. And her mom was like recording it to like put it out there, like, my 7-year-old just went through all these clicks and got to YouTube. So, big things as they get older, talking to them, this is talking about inappropriate images, but like we should not share inappropriate images. We should never ask because it's gross and weird. We shouldn't send. If somebody does want us to send, we shouldn't send, and we should report to Trusted Adult in NCMEC, which is National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I'm not gonna go over this because it'll be in your stuff, because hopefully we're not at this age of this. But if kids' pictures get out, inappropriate pictures, take it down. Through National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has made this website take it down to where kids' pictures can be taken off the internet if they're inappropriate pictures, because it's illegal for them to be out there. Helpful resources. So Good Pictures, Bad Pictures is a really great book. Highly recommend. They have like 2 versions, an elementary version, like kind of a little bit higher. I think you can find it on Amazon. And Defend Young Minds is good. Lots of different good things. And can I check everything out? I can't remember if I have a QR code on this. I know there's a QR code on this. Okay, so on the second page of your packet, the one that says resources, that takes you to Abbott House resources page, and it should have like lots of links to tons of more stuff to go and look up. And then the third page is like a fun little My Digital Risk Assessment to do with maybe you yourself and seeing where you're at on your digital risk, or if you, as you get older kids, it's cool taking it with them so you can both see your digital risk. And then last thing, these are just more, and these are all on that resources page. But I'm going to include this too, but these are, if you want to do the QR code right now and like let it pull up on your phone, and tell me if it worked, please. Did it work? Okay, and it should be like a, like an article, right? Oh, it's still loading. Okay, it should be like an article that I've looked up. I didn't make the article, but somebody did all the legwork for me, and they said these are the best parental control apps and why. And those are my kinds of things. So I'll go to the next one, but if you need it, I can do it again in another minute. This one is phones for kids. So they're actually making some more safe phones for kids now, and highly recommend starting with one of these phones. And because I honestly think start kids with a dumb phone is what we used to call it, right? Because there's no internet, it's just talk, text, dumb phone. And a lot of, I'll answer some popular questions. A lot of things are saying wait till 8th for any type of smartphone, wait till 8th grade. A lot of social media is at least 16, they say, to probably wait, some even 18. And my advice for you guys is, you know your kids probably hang out with a group of kids, right? There's like a certain group they hang out with. Talk to the parents in that group and say, can we make a pact? Can we all not get our kids a cell phone until this grade? Because what happens is somebody gives in and then everybody feels the pressure. But if you all talk and you're like, we're gonna do this, your kids won't have that, well, Allie has a phone already. Be like, Allie does not have a phone because her mom and I talked and it's not happening. So that's just a bit of advice. And then routers. So just another way to protect our kids is through routers. Again, I'm not a super techie person, but there's a lot of good resources and different things. You don't have to be techie to know how to go into your router and set some of the Wi-Fi settings to make it to where like non-explicit material comes on and different things like that. And I believe it's Common Sense Media is a huge one that I would recommend to even look up movies and games, things like that. Common Sense Media, they make it to where you can type in a movie and it will tell you like 1 out of 5 in profanity, 1 out of 5 in nudity, 1 out of 5 in violence, and it'll explain exactly why, and that's golden. Because how many times, anybody else agree that PG-13 is not the same PG-13 back in our day? I'm like, PG-13 is more like rated R, I feel like, nowadays. And so that's why Common Sense Media is good to go to, because PG-13 might not even be good enough. You know, it might still be a little sketch for our kids to see. So reporting anything to the cyber tip line, which is through National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or our local police department if you have issues when it comes to online stuff.